What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Thursday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here, and of course, coming at you on Sports Radio 1029 FM, the game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town, part of Broad Street South. And as always, you can capture us on my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. Three games in the NBA Finals. The Dallas Mavericks, they are not looking well. They've got a lot of questions to answer. And to help us do that, our good friend, the fantasy exec, Corey Parson from 107.5, the game in Columbia, not Bogota, Columbia, but Columbia,
No.
South Carolina. It's so funny, right? The Celtics line is 7.5 game two. They win by 7. Last night, I was saying yesterday on Middays with Q, I was like, hammer the Celtics, man. There's no way they're losing this game 3, whether KP was playing or not. And it just shows you, right, Corey, that this is a team, they can be down 10, they can be down 15, then they go on this ridiculous run, and they've just got the depth of talent. They know how to answer the bell, and that's why they're up 3-0 right now over the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, now you definitely see that the Boston Celtics were well worth the big record, the 1 seed, and how they're running through the playoffs right now. You're looking at a team that's really locked in. Nobody's to say that this game won't still go, 5 or 6 games, but the Boston Celtics will get one more win and win their 18th championship and hoist the Larry O'Brien for the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum era. I'm not getting ready to start talk dynasty with this team yet. Still want to see how the Eastern Conference responds, but in a year where they were clearly the best in the East, you figure they could have a little bit of issue with the Western Conference champion. I believe the Denver Nuggets would have gave them a much more difficult test. But right now you're seeing a Dallas team that kind of tapped out in that Minnesota Timberwolves series, and really Boston was fresh and ready to go outside of Porzingis. And, it's not even so much where you can look at anything rich statistically to see why Boston has been so dominant in this series. They're just making the right plays at the right moments. Their clutch shots are going in. They're getting the extra rebound. They're getting the loose balls, and that's basically, a part of the fatigue of the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, and everyone was talking about last night. I mean, listen, I get it. If you're Luka, shut up, play both ends of the floor. Stop griping, stop complaining about the fouls. It's the NBA Finals. You're not going to get in certain fouls, but to foul out of an NBA Finals game with 4 and some change to go, when you need to be on the floor and your team has to have it, a must win, that's a bad look. And listen, I know Kyrie struggled the first 2 games in Boston. He's working too hard for his shots. I know the lack of depth, the lack of, bench players and the talent with the Dallas Mavericks. You needed Kyrie and Luka to be engaged, get their 30, 35. I said it yesterday as well. Kyrie's going to get his 30 plus, 35. They're going to lose the game. But listen, you need like clean efforts from those guys. Like Dallas, I feel almost has to play like the perfect type of game. And even last night, they had that big lead, they blew it, and then Boston went on the run. But if you're Luka, man, you just gotta, I think Friday night, and he got, listen, a lot of talking heads scorched him, man, and listen, rightfully so. But he's got to ball out and show up, and just have a, one of those, I'm going to put you on my back type of performances and try to stretch this series out. If not, he's going to get a lot of criticism in the offseason.
I tell you what it is. Another thing you can look at, that criticism that's going to come and is going to start to pop up. We have been very difficult throughout the course of the last few years on Zion Williamson and Joel Embiid, both about their conditioning. And you have to start to have the same conversation with Luka Doncic and his conditioning. You know what I'm saying? He is not in good shape during the regular season. And then you get this far deep in the playoffs, and you really see Luka struggling with his conditioning. This guy's a professional athlete. People compare him to LeBron James. LeBron James is a 40-year-old man, and LeBron James will never look tired on the basketball court.
It's an excellent point that you bring up. And right, if they're winning, we gloss it over. But the fact that we're seeing that they look tired and they look ass. And listen, Boston, there's a reason this team had the record they did. There's a reason everything fell into place for them in the Eastern Conference. As you alluded to, one more win, 18th banner. Here we go. It makes me sick to my stomach. It makes you sick to your stomach.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Right?
No.
Being Knicks fans that we are. But listen, I thought going in, this would have been a referendum on the careers of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And at this point, whether it's Brown, Tatum, MVP, Tatum can finally silence, I guess, some critics for saying he was going to have 4 or 5 rings by the time he was X amount years old. But the first one's always the toughest. Things broke. Let's be honest. Boston's a very good team. They answer the bell. They go on runs. I don't like that they're so concentrated on the 3-point shot, but that's who they are. But things broke for them in the Eastern Conference, right? Giannis,
Yep.
the Sixers, the Knicks with some injuries,
Yep.
Indiana, like,
Lillard, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
across the
Not
board. Cleveland, yep,
missing the Bucks like that, you know what I'm saying? So it was things you said Donovan Mitchell. There was but you know, but then there was also, you know, when you look at Boston deeper is can they keep it going? You know, there was a commentary about Missoula and you know, was he the right guy for the
right.
job? And it seems like he is getting it done. And now, basketball wants an American star. Straight up, you know what I'm saying? Is it Jason Tatum? Probably not. You know, Jason Tatum, not the most big personality guy that's out there, but this is a good, solid basketball team. And when you add pieces like Holiday into the mix, you know what he can do. And then you add a Porzingis and Derek White coming off the bench. The team is deep enough and now well coached enough to continue to play this way. But you know, you do want to see if they can go through a tougher stretch of the
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Conference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And sometimes, look, you can't apologize for what
Yeah.
transpires in your division and or your conference, right? I mean, we know the NBA is a grind. It is a long season. I always revert it back to those bad boys teams, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 9. You just get tired after a while. You got to go
Yep.
through the war of attrition and the grind. But to your point, you look at this series as a whole. I think Boston closes out on Friday. I think Dallas took the shot. They're down for the count. I think pride will keep them in this game in the fourth, but then you just start to see the Boston
Yeah.
Celtics do what they do best. And I'm not, to your point, I think Tatum, if we want to call him a superstar or not, the levels of it, whatever, that's barroom talk. But they're just a deep team and they got veterans. And as you mentioned, they're playing the right way. And listen, you lose Porzingis.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the other thing. I
You
mean, you
see,
look,
I didn't think Porzingis was
yeah,
that big of a piece to it anyway. I thought they had everything they needed. I think Porzingis was a luxury item, an extra that really helped them a lot throughout the course of the regular season. But they didn't really need him to be full strength 100% to win the
no,
championship. They already had it built into their culture. You know what I'm saying? So if it was not a team, those culture teams
sure.
like the Heat, you know what I'm saying? Somebody like that, the Knicks, you know what I mean? Those type of teams would have gave them a more difficult run for their money, I believe, because you would have seen those teams a little bit more scrappier and a little more built on the backs of teams. But when you have the Giannis's and the stuff like that, you're really going through individuals.
Yeah, and the other point too, and again, Corey Parson, the fantasy exec, kind enough to join us middays with Q Rich Quinones here on Sports Radio 1029 FM, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. And of course, brought to you south on our YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, at Rich Q on Q on X. The makeup of the Dallas squad, and you go back to Luka and you look at Kyrie. Sometimes when you get to the finals and you have an opportunity to win it, the window kind of shuts, right? I mean, I think they were surprised going in when you look at from a betting odds standpoint, the underdogs, here we go, some plus money, make some money if they can win it all, get through the Western Conference Finals, and things broke for them as well. So it's not going to be the case next season where the Western Conference is somewhat top heavy. I just think if they have a poor showing tomorrow and if Luka plays poorly, I think that reflects poorly on him. You're going to hear a lot of question marks. How committed is he?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he's been to two of the last three conference
Yeah.
finals in the West, right?
Yep.
So, the loss to the Golden State Warriors and then was able to get past this year and break out and get into the finals.
Mm-hmm.
I still think, you're still looking at one of the better players in the NBA, but you're right. The level of, how far do you want to take it? Like, you know what I'm saying? There's the extra gear to get to that championship level. And he's still a young player. He still could very well have that in him. You know what I mean? But there needs to be a dedication to a commitment to being in shape because he's an MVP type player.
Sure. Yeah.
He's never really in the MVP conversation though,
Yeah. And you're right.
because
We're
he
going to
doesn't really
criticize,
give them, he doesn't really give himself everything. He doesn't really lay it all out there. You know what I
but that's
mean?
what you need. You need that, especially in the NBA finals. And you can't
Yeah.
bark if the officiating's not going your way. And
Oh,
you
it's
have to
not
start.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's
have to
not
get
good.
back. Yeah. You got
He
to get back on.
really needs to stop doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of players in the league do it, and LeBron does it, but when he is over the top with it, and
Right.
it's poor form.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the Academy Awards were in March, so he'll catch it next year. A couple more before I let you get out of here. Dan Hurley, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised at all. Spurns the Lakers, whether 6, 7 years, 60, 70 million, going back to UConn, trying to get the trick right, trying to go back to back to back, build that legacy. Here's your statue. Great for college hoops. Uh, I'm not as shocked as that, but what does that tell you about the Lakers and where they are that it doesn't seem like it is that destination, even though there are reports JJ Redick meeting with the Lakers potentially to be their next head coach. I guess there's your de facto plan B. I still think that's a mistake, but just thoughts on Hurley going back to UConn and
I mean, if you're Hurley, they seem like they every 2 or 3 years, if they can't win the championship,
mm,
they get rid of the head coach. And obviously, you figure Hurley would have had a better shot, or you know what I'm saying, to hold on to that job. You know, he's a player development guy, and obviously, when you get past the LeBron James era, you're going to have to be a more of a player development team. You got a built-in, supposed to be superstar with Anthony Davis, but
yep,
you see some lackadaisicalness with him. But listen, you know, Dan Hurley, Rich, you know, probably grew up quite similar to me and you. You know what I'm
all
saying?
ball.
And I'm not a big LA guy. I don't really see that being a part of my future. And I think Hurley probably said the same thing, you know, me being a product of those, you know, those basketball powerhouse in Jersey and getting up there to Connecticut to where he's basically, you know, him and Gino, the big guns on campus.
Little
Those are
more rough, little
basketball
more dog in
schools.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, basketball schools. You don't have to worry about
yeah.
football programs. You're really the head honcho. Um, you know, people say, "Oh, how would you not choose Rodeo Drive over Stores?" I probably would choose Stores myself. You
Well, I
know what
made
I'm
the
saying,
comment.
Rich?
Listen, I made the comment that after 40 games, LeBron would have started chirping, and Danny Hurley would
Yeah.
have said, "I don't need this."
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll be going into a post LeBron Laker as well. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? And you could have guys that LeBron put on the team, and you got to navigate around that. But I'm not going to say that the Lakers are becoming a regional team. But it's interesting to see that that is not the job that you know people once thought it would be, you
hmm
know, to go over there and be the next Pat Riley. You'd rather stay in Connecticut really and be the next
and then,
Calhoun.
of course, the passing of Mr. Clutch, the logo, Jerry West. I brought this up the other day on Facebook as well, and X. I mean, and I'm surprised the older heads, some of them kind of brought it up. The younger heads, they don't really know about Jerry West, right? They didn't really watch the history of the game. I mean, growing up as a kid, I just remember always seeing that highlight of him with the half court heave against the Knicks in the finals, right? Mr.
Yeah,
Clutch, here we go. But if the advent of the 3-point shot was incorporated when he played, I mean, you're talking a player that would have had well over 40,000 career points. I mean, I mean, look, besides the player himself, the executive on and off the floor, just a legend, right? I mean, he
yeah.
was Mr. Basketball, the NBA.
No doubt. He is definitely one of the core pillars of not only the NBA, but basketball in general. So, you know, definitely a legend, an icon in the game. He lost in Jerry West. And, you know, you saw him excel at the highest level of basketball in as a player and as an executive. You know what I'm saying? So definitely revered foundation of the league.
Do you have any obscure plays coming up? I mean, look, we got baseball now. We got Friday night. Do you like the Celtics on the road, or
And
you like Dallas?
I think Dallas covers the spread. I think Dallas still makes it a fight, but not for much longer. Maybe the Celtics want to go back and hoist Larry O'Brien in their building. But I was looking at some WNBA championship odds, and you got the Seattle Storm down there around 16-1. That might be interesting right there. That's all I'll leave it for obscurity.
Like I
I don't have
said,
no
there.
MEAC football for you tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go, right? I mean, before we blink, it'll be college football. We'll start to look at some futures, and then of course, the NFL, which it is amazing, right? You get Tom Brady inducted into Pats Hall of Fame, a big thing, rightfully so,
Yeah,
nice little party and everything like that. Then you get the tampering news here and there in the NFL. Then you get the Aaron Rodgers nonsense, which I don't know your opinion on this if you talked about it at all, but I look, Aaron Rodgers is who he is. I think he's a fraud. I think he's a phony, but I think that's a harsh indictment on the head coach because all he had to say was, you know what? We spoke to Aaron months ago. We knew this was planned. We excused it. We're fine. No story. Move on. But he doesn't say that. He says the complete
yeah,
opposite.
yeah. Well, he obviously wants to send a message to Aaron Rodgers, and um, it's like let Aaron Rodgers do what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, and try to go into the season as clean as possible. That's what I would do. But obviously, this is the New York Jet organization, and there's always going to be something. But I trust that whatever Aaron Rodgers is doing is not going to be the reason why the Jets fail if they do fail this season.
I think it's just a perception, right? Because here's a player that was chomping at the bit, dangling the carrot to Jet fans last year. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. And then his out was the fact that team doctors decided, hey, man, we're not releasing you. We're not signing off
Yeah,
on this. Who's to say if he was really legit
I
in
doubt
his.
it. Yeah,
Me too. I think it was just kind of a teasing, right? We're just going to tease you a little bit here and there. So if you're so committed to trying to come back and you're playing these mental mind games with the Jet fan base and the organization, and then you don't show up in mandatories. I just think the perception, it is a bad look. I know people are saying it's a non-story. When you play for the Jets or in one of the, if not the biggest sports media capital in the world in New York, and you're Aaron Rodgers, it is a story. And when your head coach comes out and says the complete opposite of what he really should have said, then
yeah.
all of a sudden it's magnified a lot more.
Yeah, and then obviously when Aaron does show, he has to answer questions about it, and
Yeah.
this is how you start off on the way to a top 10 draft pick.
Hey, that's why I'm going to hammer the under on the Jets when it comes to. I already start to look. Don't forget, give Corey a follow at the Fantasy Except. He's going to fire up his show on his YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and of course, 1075 The Game in Columbia. And I'm sure we will get to hear him a lot more down there on the radio, and always kind enough to join us on Middays with you. Appreciate you, brother.
All right.